Hello and welcome to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we discuss veteran disability benefits, real estate, and everything business ownership. Kenneth Davis, how you feeling today, my brother?
Man, wonderful, wonderful. Blessed and highly favored out here.
Absolutely, man. We got a great show for you today. We're going to switch up the grooves. I know y'all loving the veteran content, but we're going to hold that out to the end today, all right? We're going to get into some real estate because there's some real hot button issues going on in the real estate market.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely.
Absolutely, man. So, Kenneth Davis, I know you out here in sunny San Diego, right? And you're looking at different properties in Las Vegas.
hmm
So, how do you feel about the real estate market and as far as filling your goals in real estate right now?
Man, well, you know what? Actually, I'm really happy where the market stands. Most people are a little afraid, right? But as Warren Buffett says, when they're afraid, we go towards it, right? So when we're talking about investing and different things of that nature, there's always a deal out there somewhere. But when we're talking about the interest rates, they actually dipped back a bit, which I'm really excited about. However, when we're transitioning coming from San Diego market to a Las Vegas market, it gets a little tricky, right? Obviously, there's a lot more opportunity in regards to different houses and the types of houses you're able to buy because you're going to a lower cost market. You know, coming from a high cost market, a vibrant high cost market, going to a lower cost market, it provides you a little bit more flexibility, right? However, at the same time, you have other opportunities in trying to refinance loans and trying to get the numbers right because it's all about the numbers. It's never about the property in particular. It's all about the numbers. So I think we're in a great state, though, okay, in the sense of being able to shift to a lower cost market to get the best deals possible because prices are coming down and also interest rates are coming down and could possibly stay down. But who knows? Again, at this point, I think it's a great time to buy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nobody has that crystal ball, but we all have some predictions. And you bring up an excellent point because
hmm
a lot of people say, "Well, is now a good time to buy? Is it not?" It really just depends on your individual situation. So, if you
Yeah.
somebody moving from, as you described it, a high cost market in California or different places in the Midwest and you know back east where you can't even get a shack in New York for under $1 million. Buying in any market, would be better and get you a lot more bang for your buck for sure. So
True indeed.
absolutely. So we want to go into that, man. And actually, how do you really kind of define not overspending and being house poor, right? Because if you're in New York, even if you were written and didn't own your home, you might be paying $3,500 or more for
hmm
your monthly obligations. So then when you're looking at a market like Las Vegas, you might be chomping at the bit a little bit to bite on a little bit more than you can chew with the house because on paper you might be able to afford it, but
hmm
based on what you may feel comfortable paying, you might want to pump the brakes a little bit. So
hmm
let's talk a little bit about that in consideration and that type of decision on how much house you should get to kind of avoid being house poor.
Oh man, and I think this is a huge topic. I think everyone gets really excited when your loan offers. You submit all your paperwork, you fill out the application, and you get over excited because they say, "Oh, you can afford a $900,000 home." Well, scale that back a bit, right? Just because it says on paper that you can actually purchase a home for 900,000. It's all dependent upon your DTI, what's acceptable from that lender, what's not acceptable from that lender, what property, what state, and also your obviously income. So, but with that being said, just because you receive that offer, you also need to actually take a look at what you're actually paying, what's going out and what's coming in. Do not rely on your pre-approval to determine how much house you buy, right? But in regards to What I personally think you should be spending in regards to what's comfortable, it's all subjective. It's all subjective. It's relative and it's subjective. So because just because one person spends $4,000 on their monthly expenses in total, not that does not mean a family of four can do the same,
Right.
right?
Right.
So ultimately, you have to take in consideration of that. So for me, I particularly want nothing. There's people that are spending 80% of their household income, 70, 80% of the household income just on rent or mortgage. You know, and that's a very terrible way to live, and that's just being again house poor, right? Yeah, you have an amazing home, which again it may or may not be amazing, depending on what market you live in, right? But now you can't frequently do anything outside of that. So I particularly would always scale back if again your total income for me, you shouldn't be spending more than 45 to 50% of that total income on your mortgage, and that's a little high in that regard for me.
No, absolutely. And you bring up a very good point there. And I actually reference it to something, a wise man once said, right? One of my mentors, he was talking about it in a sense of when you're purchasing a car, right? And when you really start looking at like luxury items,
Hmm.
you buying a luxury car. Let's say you want to go out and buy a Tesla Model S, right? It's like
Hmm.
that's $100,000 car. So if you buying $100,000 car, literally you should be making like $1 million or something. You know what I mean? Something like that. When you or however you slice it, you want that to be 10% of your income, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing a luxury purchase. Obviously, if you just getting by, you making $60,000 a year. Of course, you might have a $30,000 car, $40,000 car because you want something pretty decent and reliable, right? But when you start getting into luxury purchases, you really want to be careful regarding that debt to income and not overspending just because that pre-approval says you can do so. So I know a
And,
lot of
and
people are doing that with cars and they getting repo right now because they're
whoa,
they're
whoa,
doing too much.
don't say the R word. It's too close.
Absolutely, man.
It almost seems as though it could be a looming recession. It was when cars
Uh
start
oh,
getting
uh
repo,
oh.
right?
Hey, man, they said car repossessions are at an all time high since 2008. It hasn't been this high. So
Yeah,
people are overspending on different things. The average car note right now is costing about $700 a month. And when we're talking about this not being house poor, we get into like thinking about the debt to income ratio, right? Because a lot of times when individuals are purchasing a house, I mean, first and foremost, you usually always want to buy the house before you purchase the car. That's like
that's number
rule
one.
number
That's number one.
uno.
Yeah, you have to get the house before you get the car. The house is just, I mean, the car is again an accessory to the house.
Right,
All right.
exactly. And
But
yeah, and that's why I bring up
can you
that
just scale
point.
back? I'm sorry. Could you scale back just a little bit? And when you talked about debt to income, can you touch on that a little bit? Because I'm sure some of our viewers are wondering what is debt to income.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was gonna go into that because again, because when we're talking about being house poor, right? We're saying, okay, well, what is being house poor? It's like when you got that loan approval, you didn't have that car note yet, right? Because if you did it the way I would tell you to do it, most likely you didn't have that car note, so your true expenses weren't actually being accounted for because you
Mm,
always knew you was gonna go get that Tesla, that Benz, or that Maserati. You already had that in the plan. Like 6 months after this house closed, I'm pulling up something new in that garage. So when they actually did your mortgage loan, they factored in your debt to income. So what they're looking at with that is your monthly revolving expenses. So they're looking at what
mm,
that monthly mortgage payment is going to be, the home association if you're living in an HOA community, and also your personal revolving debt, whether that's your car loans, your student loans, and your credit card debt, right? They're looking at all revolving lines to determine that debt to income ratio. And that's how you figure out what you actually qualify for in that loan.
mm, mm. And I'll tell you, just to add on to that, again, DTI. Again, it's a lot of times it's dependent upon the lender's risk, right? However, for some loan products, you can't go above a certain limit, 45% DTI or something of that nature, depending on what actual loan product that you actually go with. So you want to be very careful of the amount of debt that you take on with actually looking to buy a home.
Absolutely. That's a good point. Yeah, typically it's going to be around 45% if you're doing a conventional loan product. If you're doing a government backed loan, which is VA loan, USDA loan, or FHA loan, they'll give you a little bit more on the debt to income, sometimes up to a little bit above the 50% mark to kind of help you out. And also, it gets into the weeds, and you can get into this with your loan officer about the front end debt versus the back end and
Yeah.
all of that type of fun stuff. But mainly what you want to know is don't buy too much house, right? Just don't do it because you ain't going to be able to furnish it. And you also not going to be able to keep it if something break down.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta always have those auxiliary expenses kind of like set aside. I think no one really talks about that. My first home that I purchased, it was again, it was a modest home that I purchased. However, I got overzealous myself and was like, these are the options that we have in this price point. But I didn't necessarily go in the upper tier. We were just in a high market, right? We're in an expensive market. So there was luxury of being at a lower, having a lower pre-approval and being able to find something that you're comfortable with living in with a lower pre-approval just wasn't an option for the area that we desired. So with that being said, we purchased a home, and going into things, very excited. You get overzealous with this purchase, that purchase, and you start becoming a little frantic in trying to furnish your property. And when you did that, what happened was, guess what? You still got Uncle Sam. They want their money. You got supplemental taxes, right? Then we have these. Oh, that was a nice couch, right? Yeah. Now you need to pay for that nice couch. Well, don't forget the dining room table. Oh, you wanted the new floors? Yeah, those new floors cost too. So when all this comes about, there's always ways to get what you desire and what you need, but you also need to be very conscious, financially disciplined to stay in the realm of what you can afford.
Absolutely. No, that's a very good point because if you're going from San Diego or New York and you were living in a modestly sized home, under 2,000 square feet, now you're going to somewhere like Vegas where you can get a big old house, 3,000, 4,000 square feet. That's a whole lot to furnish, for sure.
Yeah.
So, that's literally double the furniture, double the AC bill, double the cleaning, right? Because sometimes you get a little bougie, you don't clean yourself. Now, you got to have Maria, whoever clean it, she charges you double the fees. There's a lot more square footage there. So
You better stay in that one living room. That's where we stand. We stand right there.
absolutely. A lot more for the kids to be writing on the wall everywhere. And, you got to put got to cover up a lot more outlets, the baby proof stuff. It's a whole lot that goes into that. And yeah, you definitely want to make sure you don't purchase too much house, but you want to make sure you're doing something where you're going to be comfortable.
Mhm.
I think when my home, that I purchased about a year and a half ago now, I think I did a pretty good job at that. My goal was to really stay right around the median home price at that time. So I didn't really want to go too much above that because I know once you get too far above that, now it's just completely luxury, and you are buying what you want versus what you need. Of course, I got 5 bedrooms and almost 4,000 square feet, but
Ooh,
I
calm
still wanted
down.
to stick. I still wanted to stick not too above that median, right? So I sacrificed a little bit on the area, moved to North Las Vegas, which is a lot better than what some of these gurus online would tell you. You know, about the area, and I'll actually get into that in a minute. But yeah, you really want to look at that. Now, I look and I consider it's like, man, I should have went, because I moved like more Aliante adjacent, right? Like I ain't want to pay them Aliante prices, but I wanted to be
Mhm.
close. But it's like I should have moved to Aliante, I think sometimes, but it's just like other times I'm like, no, I'm good right here,
Mhm.
And I think at a time where I moved, it was just like the market was crazy. It was during COVID, and you couldn't get everything you wanted. So if I moved to the crib in Aliante I wanted, didn't have a backyard where I could eventually put in a pool. So I think right now is amazing where you really have every advantage to get everything you want, whether it's the area, square footage, lot size, and all those different things. But you definitely don't want to be too overzealous on doing too much too soon, because it is going to be a major life change for sure.
Yeah, yeah. But let me ask, so when you were selecting areas, obviously you had to, I feel as though that when in any city, I don't care where it is, when you're selecting specific areas, you have to give up certain things to gain certain things. Is there a commonality in certain purchases that you see and things that you give up in certain areas versus not in certain areas there in Vegas?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure, for sure. So now, if you were, to go into the southwest side of Las Vegas, which they have some wonderful homes, American West, Paulty Homes, they have some 3,000 up to 5,000 square foot properties over there, and you can get them, fairly decent price, right? And 800s and that sort of thing, which I know is getting up there, but for 4,000 square foot home, that's pretty decent. But with some of those homes, which you're sacrificing a little bit with those, is like the privacy, right? Because
Mhm.
you don't really, like, on those streets over there, you don't really have like sidewalks all the time, and they're kind of closer together for a house that you're spending almost $1 million for, right? So you're looking at that, and but you're getting a lot as far as you're getting the location, because it's prime right next to the strip. You're getting a larger home, but you're going to pay a little bit more, right? So you're paying within those 800,000s to get those properties. Whereas if you went to North Las Vegas, you can probably get the same type of property for around 650.
Mhm.
But then if you went to Summerlin, it's gonna cost you over $1 million to get anything over 2,500 square feet. In a lot of cases. So you're gonna give a little to get a little bit more. So it just really depends on what's more important to you. Like, do you want to be in a better school zone in an A or B class community, or do you want more house for less?
Mm, mm. I think that's vital information right there. So if you're ever looking for a property in Vegas, you know who to call.
Absolutely, man. You know who to call for sure. But now, and as you ask that question, so when you make home decisions, how are you evaluating that versus, like location versus, the actual home, and really balancing that out? Like, on the scales of your important level of importance, how do you rank those things?
Oh man, priority setting is and goal setting is two different things, right? So this was something that you have to sit down, I think, with whoever you're purchasing, whether if it's your significant other or whether if it's yourself, a singular home. So with priority setting in that order, I think the schooling area primarily would be one of the number one options. as I as I have two children, right? With two kids, you want to ideally make sure that the schooling is in proper condition for them. Definitely living in a Nevada, Las Vegas area where the school systems are not that great in general. So that's kind of high priority. But myself, uh, again, our family here, we definitely have extracurricular activities outside of that to supplement those the education. But when we're talking about priority listing, it's going to be obviously schooling, safety, and size,
Hmm.
right? Schooling, safety, and size, and that and pretty much in that particular order. Um, because at the end of the day, the I can have a wonderful home, but if that wonderful home is in a less desirable area that my children cannot be safe in, I'd rather move into a more compact house where we can enjoy each other and they can enjoy themselves. So that's kind of my priority order in regards to that priority list for me. But outside of that, when we're talking about, distance to work and, off the freeway system, is it kitty corner? Is it a cul-de-sac? All these different things. They come like last on the list because of my job status and how we have availability to move from one location to another. So That's my top three on my list.
No, absolutely. That's great. See, yeah, you're a business owner. You ain't got to worry about that commute. So that definitely helps out, right?
Yeah, yeah, just a bit, not too much. You still got to travel a bit,
Hey,
but
man, my
yeah,
man said he could go move to Hawaii if he want to.
we'll try maybe Thailand. You know,
Okay, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one for sure, man, for sure. Well, that works out, man. So definitely a lot of things to consider, folks, when you're moving and you're trying to make this decision. And to the point that Kenneth was making, it's like a lot of people will go and they really desire Summerlin, right, or certain areas of Henderson, and they'll get a home where it still might cost about 450,000. It only have a one car garage, right? Because they sacrifice that house size because it puts them in the best school district. And they just love that area and the proximity to different things and all of that. So, it's definitely much to consider. I would say for myself, get a bigger home and send the kid to private school or the or what do you call that? The either the private school or one of the other schools in the area that's private but is still publicly managed. What do they call that? We got that.
charter
Yeah,
school.
yeah, yeah. Send them to a charter school then. Go ahead and
Yeah,
send them to the charter school or pay that private school education and do it that way. Which Vegas is actually good for that. I know in the Inspirada, for example, in that community, which is a pretty good area of its own, but they actually have in that community where they're building out part of the master plan different schools, which I think includes like a charter school in that area and different plans like that. So definitely a lot to consider. It's tough when you're trying to plan out like for a forever home, right? Because it's like
yeah,
forever is a long time. Like the school might be good when the kid was in second grade, but then he go to high school and it took a dive. So definitely. But hey, that's why we maintain the flexibility, right? When you buy right, if you need to, you could get out of that thing if you have to, just because it's not conducive to your lifestyle anymore.
yeah. And I think you kind of for myself, and again, again, I have a great real estate mentor that teaches me a lot, Mr. Jones here. So it's just being able to, for me, for my desires in regards to home purchasing, I don't think I'm ever going to have a forever home.
Mm.
Just due to the fact it's either, I'm going to always become a avid home collector, right? You always want more and more under your belt. And I plan on potentially, hopefully, God willing, to continue to purchase throughout my life, because this is like they say, they're not building no more land. We only got what we got. So
Right.
at least I can hopefully own the whole north side of Vegas, southwest side of Vegas, or somewhere.
Absolutely. No, no, that makes sense. And when you get into like that house hacking model, right, where you actually live in a house at least a year and then go ahead and convert that to a rental and then move out, that's really one of the most effective ways to actually accumulate property.
Mhm.
It's tough sometimes to uproot the family, but hopefully they can understand because, we building that family legacy and we making money. And that's really the ultimate goal to do that. Um, I struggle with that on two different ways on thinking about it. I think I'm kind of leaning more towards you with that, but then I was listening to Eric Thomas and his
Mhm.
podcast, Secrets of Success. Shout out him and CJ, man. We
ET.
coming for that crowd, man. We coming for y'all. We coming for
Man,
y'all. We gonna be
appreciate
in the
y'all
building.
fellas, man. That was also they spit the good sauce out there.
Yeah, 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 no, absolutely they do, man. And Et was kicking some bars, man. He was talking about the fact that it's good to make 100,000. It's good to make six figures, right? But how many
Mhm.
people can save six figures, right? And I'm
Mm.
like, whoo, man. And then when you think about it, right, I'm like, well, man, if I stayed in my house, could I just, have that low mortgage and then be able to save more? But it's like, that's one way to look at it. But if I'm buying right constantly, I could still have a higher mortgage, but I'm not paying for that higher mortgage, right? Because I'm renting this house out. So, let's say for the purpose of math, right? If my mortgage was, 2,500 and now I'm able to rent that property out for 3,200 right now, and then rent gonna keep going up, so that's gonna continue to grow, and I'm getting that equity appreciation as well, hopefully about 5 to 7% here in Vegas on average. And then I get in that other home, that mortgage may be 3,500 or 4,000, but the difference that I'm making in the profit of that rental is really covering that difference. So it's like, it seems like you scaling up your lifestyle and what they call lifestyle creep, but
Mm-hmm.
not so much, right? If you're doing it intelligently and you actually really being diligent about those funds. It's not like you know, always upgrading my car or something that is not an asset and is not appreciating with value.
Yeah, I think you kind of I think we want to put a name on it, right? So people can kind of really understand, and that's just that financial discipline. That's just that financial discipline. Being able to, you know, save $100,000 or six figures or whatever you want to say, but being able to save that provides a discipline that you need to be able to carry on for month after month after month after month. And most people can't do that, and I think that's what he was alluding to in that. But also, when you talk about that type of discipline as well, being able to utilize strategies to still get what you want, but still maintain that nest egg or maintain majority of those monies that save. You can still get what you want, but you got to kind of work with the system on how you can purchase those for you and your family. I was actually watching, man. Again, man, just watching some of these fabulous people. Man, Shannon Sharp, man. Listen, Shay Shay, Club Shay Shay. It's just, Chad Johnson was on there, and I always thought Chad Johnson was a very interesting football player. Obviously, he was one of the best. However, when talking about financial gain and financial success for him, he never once was a flashy guy in a sense of wearing all these chains, coming out just so dripped out, right? As everyone calls it, being so drippy. So what happened was, it was just in the point he was saving all his capital to be able to later on pass that down, because he understand the importance of staying disciplined and staying still. So that same discipline that he carried out on the field every game, he also carried out into his life. And I don't know, his dating life or marriage life, anything of that nature, but some people are not comfortable with that. And we have to talk about that because it causes a lot of rift. So you have to surround yourself around people that has very similar discipline similar disciplines in their lives, whether if it's the gym, whether if it's the food that they consume, whether if it's the work that they do, something. So having that discipline in your life definitely puts you at I guess a top tier or high value person.
Absolutely. No, absolutely for sure. I mean, that gets into like that whole Dave Ramsey school of thought, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
saving, versus investing and just following certain financial principles and just really doing it the right way, quote unquote, because, I mean, the strategies for different people and their goal is going to be separate, right? Like everybody has their own goals in life on what they're trying to pursue and what's really important to them. So it's hard for anybody to just simply sit here and tell you like, yeah, do this. It's like, well, a lot of people ask these, so-called gurus online and they comment boxes and they on their live streams like, hey, well, I got this kind of credit score, what should I do? It's just like, bro, you didn't broke down 2 sentences and you want me to plan your whole life? Like, it's not gonna work out that way. It doesn't happen that way, man. You gonna have to pay for a consultation, or sometimes companies like Veterans with Veterans have free consultations. Sit down, do that, let the individual know your complete story. Then they can assess what's really going on and make some recommendations from there.
Yeah, everyone's financial path is different. It's never the same. Ultimately, what you're finding out, what your family's goals are, could be someone else's family's goals. What your goals are, personal goals, is could be different, could differ from the next door neighbor or the person that you sit down and talk to every single day. So being on the same page really is really important, and also having a financial expert, not a online guru, because everyone's a guru, right? But as Mr. Jones will tell you, if you haven't put in those 10,000 hours in, don't call my phone.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you're continuously putting in the effort, putting in the work, and making sure that, again, that discipline is within your life, so you can be able to hopefully live in the Southwest or Summerlin or wherever you desire to stay eventually.
Absolutely. Or come over here to Aliante or Aliante adjacent, at least. That's I because really, man, because if we think about it, one of my mentors was talking about it, and he even said it publicly, so it's fine for me to actually repeat this. Is that he was talking about North Las Vegas, and he was saying like it's Aliante is in North Las Vegas. Aliante is really nice, but the thing is, you got to drive through. If you're getting off on the 15, you're getting off on like Cheyenne, and you driving Losi or North Fifth all the way down. Us Vegas people, us rebels, we know what we're talking about with that. But when you're doing that, it's like you going through a lot of commercial area, different things like that. So if you got a new Maserati or a new, S550 or whatever they got with bins now and all that, it's like, man, you don't want them chipping your car with the rocks and all that. You got to drive through, all of that to really get there. And at one point it was like, he would describe it as like you got to drive through the quote unquote ghetto, right? To get home, which I think is part of the trouble with Aliante a little bit. But it's like you have the 215, and if you take that longer pathway, because sometimes I do it. Sometimes like I don't want to see all that and risk rock chips on my car. I take that longer route, to get to Henderson, which I could have had a 19-mile commute, but I took 34 miles to get there because I went around. But it's gonna be the same amount of time. But once they actually fix that, man, and make it where you got a beltway, like how Summerlin has the beltway to get to Summerlin, that land over there is gonna be pretty valuable. But also, I think sometimes people from different cultures, right? It's gonna be first of all, North Las Vegas and Northtown are two different things. Let me just say that, right? And so when you're talking about the ghetto of North Las Vegas, people are usually confusing that with West Las Vegas, which isn't part of North Las Vegas at all, or they're confusing that with Northtown. I'm going to stand up for North Las Vegas and say it's just a working class city. If we look at the properties in North Las Vegas, you have stuff going on from the 200s all the way to about the 700-800s, right? 100,000s. They don't have a lot of $1 million homes over here in this area. So it's really targeted to be a lower to upper middle class type community where you have a lot of families, in that lower range. And because of apartments and because it's a little bit older in some areas, you might have some crime and different things, but it's not as bad as you would think. And me as an African-American male, I ain't really scared to live in North Las Vegas, right? But if I was, again, of different cultures, it's like they may feel less comfortable living in North Las Vegas because, it's more Black and Latino, which is fine. You may feel more comfortable and identify with people more so in Summerlin. I mean, even if you are African-American, you might identify more in Summerlin or more in the Southwest, and that's totally fine for you. So it really depends on the type of lifestyle you're trying to live and the people that you're used to being accustomed around. Because it's like I go to the gym in North Las Vegas, and we go every morning, and I have a very good gym community there now, right? You know what I mean? I love my neighbors. Everybody's cool. I like going to the grocery stores. I don't see any crime or anything like that in my area other than just seeing it on the news, because at the end of the day, all the houses around me cost $500,000 and up. And if you could afford to live over here, whether you buying or renting, you paying some money to live over here. You know what I mean? Unless you were grandfathered in a long time ago, right? But most of this area is brand new. So it's just like when people kind of rag on North Las Vegas is like, that's just because, you ain't cool enough and of the culture to be living in North Las Vegas. So, you can't do it, but I could go ahead and save my money and get that 4,000 square foot house and be in North Las Vegas, Aliante adjacent or Aliante, and just be cruising back.
That's funny. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting thought because it's interesting. The only reason I say that is because Las Vegas has become one of the most diverse cities, across America, right? I mean, we talk about UNLV at the time. Again, at the time I was there, it was one of the most diverse universities across the nation. So, when we're talking about the actual city, who actually lives at these places? You're talking about one. You're talking about the diversity of the community of who works in the casinos, right? Who are going to the schools, who are working at these businesses or creating these businesses. That's the people that live right next to you. However, it's dependent on the price point. But even if when you're talking about the price points, like you said, it's a working class community. When you're talking about a working class community, typically the crime rate's a little bit lower, schools are a little bit better. However, it's always going to be riffraff in any neighborhood that you live in, typically. However, it's just, I don't think it's, I just think it's a stigma.
Right.
A lot of people put a stigma on a lot of different things. Every time I come visit, I love it. To be honest with you, to me, it's booming. All this new development, all these new jobs, all these new businesses are continuously to grow. You see Vegas just expanding, just in general. But at the end of the day, you talk about comfortability. Comfortability equals safety to some. So
Yeah, absolutely. So if you subscribe to living in those other areas, great. But if you are thinking like, hey, I don't want to live in North Las Vegas because of that stigma, and I mean, I felt that way before. This is my second property in North Las Vegas, right? And that first one, I was like off of what Cheyenne and MLK. I ain't really want to describe that. I ain't gonna lie to you. It's like, oh, we like, yeah, I live in a new build over there, Cheyenne and MLK. It's like, oh, but it's like I let that stigma get to me. But it's just like, why was I, worried about what somebody else think? And I'm in a brand new home over here, and they might be renting where they at in the Southwest, or living in a smaller home and different things, which is cool for them. But it's just like, I chose the best situation for me. And you can't let other people's opinions really impact your lifestyle and put too much thought on that, because at the end of the day, they are not laying down with you at night. The best thing, the most important thing is the safety, protection, and comfortability of your family, right? The people that are going to be in the home, and your family and friends that are going to be visiting you, right? Is considering that comfortability, I think, is more of a priority than, just being able to talk to somebody at the water cooler at work and be like, yeah, I live in Inspirada, or I live in Summerlin, and just doing
mhm.
that. But you only bought that home because you wanted to be able to flex that area, but then you didn't get the home you wanted because you couldn't afford the home that you wanted because you chose that nicer area.
Yeah, and it all goes back to that financial discipline.
Yeah.
Financial discipline. So
Financial discipline, yeah. And again, if you can't afford the home right now, that's okay. I mean, however you decide to do that. I think North Las Vegas, and I think most of Vegas, you really can't go wrong with where you purchase, right? Because
mhm.
if you purchase correctly, you're going to be in a situation where you're building equity. And again, it doesn't have to be your forever home, and you can continue to scale up. Obviously, at the rate that North Las Vegas is developing, I feel like a lot of people that's coming from California, Los Angeles area specifically, is going to look at North Las Vegas and be like, y'all call that the hood? It's like, because, like, what are we talking about here? I'm going to go ahead and choose this bigger home because I'm looking at it, and there's people that live in Baldwin Hills and different parts of West LA and different places, which they have nice little silos of communities, right? But
Mhm.
then they still got to go to the grocery stores with people from the hood, quote unquote, right? And it's like in North Las Vegas, if you're in Aliante specifically, you don't really have to worry about that. Like literally, you could be living in Baldwin Hills, and then you go to your grocery store and you like, what is this? you know, it, because it's like it's not a Baldwin Hills, grocery store, but it's like Aliante got their own shopping centers. You live in Aliante if you over here cruising to these shopping centers. So so I feel like those type of people look at North Las Vegas and particularly that Aliante area, and it's like that's a lot of value. I would run it up and spend money for these homes because I'm coming over here. I have a family. I want a larger home. I'm gonna put them in one of the nice schools over here, whether it be that charter school that we talked about, or if we're in improving some of the other public schools, and just go from there and be comfortable, stretch out, and be in my pool and live life.
Wow, yeah, and I think that's what it is, man. And this is why, man. Again, the details that you provide and providing housing for people is just impeccable. I mean, we just ran down a whole list of things that in this conversation, of things that to take in consideration when dealing with one of your clients. So ultimately, if you're not able to do that to yourself, I know you're actually implementing that to your clients and what their needs are. So, and I
Absolutely.
experienced it firsthand. So. Man, we appreciate great real estate agents like yourself, real estate brokers. So, hey, visit kvonjones.com. Make sure you go ahead and get the listings available.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I got this hat on, Las Vegas March Madness, so this real estate madness is heating up as well, man. So definitely get in touch with us. We'll definitely close out this segment here. And we have a good rest of the show for you guys today. We're going to talk about some more veteran benefit topics and get to those
Yes, yes.
conversations. Reach out to me if you have any real estate needs in Las Vegas, or if you even have needs other places, right? Because I do have a vast referral network in other areas, San Diego included, and really nationwide, right? So you'll be able to kind of pull from my expertise because I'm gonna be part of that transaction as well. Kind of helping the individual and transferring it to that local person, and then you'll be able to get some of my thoughts on your decision. So it'll be a good bang for your buck in that regards of having a team of real estate professionals serve you.
Perfect, perfect, man. With that being said, man, thank you so much for all the information. It's just invaluable. We continue to listen to you for guidance and just continue to provide good counsel. With that being said, we out. Peace.
Peace. Welcome back to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we talk everything veteran disability benefits, real estate, and entrepreneurship for all you business owners out there. Kenneth Davis, how you feeling today, my brother?
Man, blessed and highly favored, brother. Just blessed and highly favored, man.
Absolutely, man. We here in Vegas, man, getting ready for that March Madness. UNLV may not be on your brackets, but I'm still pushing through for my alma mater, man. I'm doing that. I hope you're doing the same.
Hey, let's go. Running rebels, right? We're going to the top.
Absolutely, man. Making sure they prepare to compete. But
Yes,
on
sir.
here, we have a wonderful topic for you today on the veteran side of things, right? With permanent and total disability benefits. So,
Yeah.
first, what we want to have Mr. Davis explain there is exactly what that means to be permanent and totally disabled.
So obviously, everyone is really concerned if they once they hit that number of 100%, are they permanently in total? How do you find out if you're permanent in total? What does permanent in total exactly mean, right? But with that being said, permanent in total means that your chronic disabilities has no room for improvement, right? With no room for improvement, automatically it's going to be presumed that you're going to be at this chronic state pretty much for the rest of your life. So, if you do not have any future examinations on your rating disability sheet, what's going to happen is that you're going to be labeled permanent and total. And with permanent and total, there's coming other ancillary benefits that comes along with it, and we're going to kind of talk about those as well. But ultimately, permanent and total mean that you'll be at this chronic state, seemingly for the rest of your life. Again, like I said before, the best way to make that determination if you have no more future exams.
Great, great. Okay. No, that's a really good point there. Now, can permanent and total ever be taken away from a veteran?
Permanent and total is a very interesting concept when we're talking about being taken away, right? Obviously, if you're at 100% permanent and total, there's seemingly no reason to go back into the VA to request an increase. But sometimes, some veterans ultimately would like to have something service connected, even if they were denied and they're at the maximum benefit. But with that, sometimes you're subject to of scrutiny of possibly being reduced with other conditions. So, with that being said, typically what I would go ahead and advise is that when you're dealing with permanent and total, the VA can ultimately take a look at other conditions if you are not static. And what static means, it specifically means that your disability has not been enacted for at least 5 years. And then you got the 10-year mark, and then you got the 20-year mark. Those markers, when you hit those markers of your current disability, it's pretty much going to be in place. Okay, unless there's any type of determination of fraud and different things of that nature have been taking place.
Got it. Got it. So yeah. So when you're referring to those future examinations, none are required, but sometimes veterans go in and they want to get some service connected, and at that point, I guess they're just opening up Pandora's box to potentially be um, reduced for one of the other conditions. So
Yeah, yeah.
and that's probably the only reason that it would get reduced if they did find like, well, wait a minute, you had this claim and that actually from this new examination improved, so we're going to decrease that, and that could actually cause loss of your permanent and total. Oh wow, that's really good. I mean, and I know from understanding veterans, sometimes you can be passionate about getting something service connected. So it's very important to understand what you're risking, right? If you already are at that 100%. So that's some good points there.
Yeah, yeah, and ultimately, like as mentioned, when we have these future examinations, a lot of regional offices have different kind of guidelines on when we're talking about future examinations. So if you ever get to that point in a total marker, I would always advise try to not to submit any claims if any, but ultimately, if you have to do so, go ahead and do so. But when you also want to be very cautious doing so. So again, you can always give us a call. We can be able to assist you, at least providing you somewhat some information in regards to that.
Absolutely, man. That's great. That's great. So now, when we're talking about permanent and total disability benefits, so what exactly does that encompass? What are some auxiliary benefits that may come from being 100% service connected?
Oh, great question. So when we're talking about permanent and total, right? I mean, there's so many allotted amount of benefits, some federal, some state, but there's so many benefits that's actually offered to you when you are at that permanent and total state. So by being at the permanent and total state, ultimately you kind of considered as the disabled veteran who has no room for improvement of his disabilities for the rest of their lives. Okay, you can either get there by multiple disabilities or just one static disability. But with that being said, some of those disabilities can result into ancillary benefits or that coinciding percentage of 100%, moving towards 100 to be able to give you other ancillary benefits. And there's a laundry list of them. I'm just going to go through a few of them. One being chapter 35. I believe we kind of spoken deftly amongst chapter 35 in one of our previous videos that we've queued up. Okay, but also there's such things as car registration. It's that's dependent upon your state. That's dependent upon your state. That's a state benefit. You go to places such as California, I know Texas, Florida, Virginia. There's so many different states that actually offer you a free car registration. Okay, where you don't pay your car registration for a primary vehicle. That's something that's offered, right? Then also we talk about We can also talk about student loan forgiveness. That's another huge benefit that's offered for disabled veterans, right? A lot of veterans actually go into the military, trying to get provided some relief of their, student loans, right? By being able to join the military and try to capture some of those monies to pay back the student loans by joining the military. But also, there's another way as well. Once you're out of the military, if you ever become permanently disabled, at that point, the government will then totally discharge your student loans, no matter how much it is, right? They will totally discharge those student loans there. So that actually, pulls that belt because most people, we all understand there's no getting around student loans. You can't bankrupt them. You can't do anything. They're just kind of that looming payment that you just kind of have to continuously pay if you ever got in that cycle, right? But another option would be another point of contention or point of benefit would also be the Champ VA. Champ VA. Champ VA is an amazing benefit. Okay. This benefit here is medical insurance, okay, essentially for your dependents, for your dependents. And there's no monthly premium that's attached to this. There's not a monthly premium that's attached to this. Okay. Champ VA, that is ultimately providing your dependents, your spouse, children, and so on and so forth, medical care, okay, that is totally free outside of copays. Okay, obviously you would need to pay a copay to that provider within network, but that is an awesome benefit to be able to provide you medical insurance with for your family.
No, absolutely, man. That's great. That's some great auxiliary benefits there, man. And I want to touch on a couple of the ones that really kind of hit home with me here. Now that property tax, right? So as a realtor, definitely I know all my clients, especially the veterans, and seeing how property taxes actually go up, right, with the
Mhm.
value of the home here, that's a huge one, right?
Yeah.
So now how does that work? So they can actually get their property tax exemption.
Yeah. So what it is, that's a state benefit as well. It's all dependent upon which state, which area. However, if you go to a state such as Florida, right? Let's say Florida is a huge advocate for many veterans. So Florida, what's going to happen is Florida is actually going to provide you property tax exemption. Okay. So if you purchase a home in Florida, which are many retirees are actually relocated there because again, no state income tax and also property tax exemption, right? So what that's going to happen is that they're going to actually exempt you from your property taxes, and that's actually essentially lowering the mortgage of your home if you have a mortgage, and if it's paid free and clear at that point, that's just your home. You don't pay any taxes on it.
Oh
So
man, yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's definitely amazing, right? Because it's like depending on where you live, and as you know, property taxes can range from 1 to 2,000 all the way 5, 6, $7,000, just again depending on where you live, and then also the cost of the home. So
Yeah.
that could add a couple $100 extra a month that you would actually have to have in an escrow account if you're paying it that way, or dropping that whole 7,000 at one time. So that's a huge saving for veterans, man. So that's a great one. That's a great one there.
Yeah, and again, as a real estate broker, it's always very privy. I always want to tell you guys that when providing this information to your veterans, make sure that you have to understand when you're purchasing a property within that purchase, property taxes will be applied because you're deemably purchasing from either the developer or the seller, right? Those property taxes will still be applied. Will then need to be paid for within the sale of the property, but then thereafter, again, you can go down to the county to go ahead and, if you live in a allowable state that does so, you can go down to the state to be able to provide your information to the county. And what they'll do, they'll go ahead and, again, deemably remove those taxes from there going forward.
Oh man, that's a great benefit for permanent and total, man, because it's like you're already, getting that monthly allocation, which is almost around what $4,000 a month, and now you're able to get that property tax exemption. And I know for some veterans I know, and here we're representing UNLV myself, man, those pesky student loans, man. So you said those can be completely forgiven. Now, do they have like a cap on the amount, or how does that work?
No, there's no cap on the amount. It's considered to be a disabled person. So, just like very similar to, again, you would say Social Security disability or something of that nature, right? If you're a disabled person permanently, at that point, it's taken in still that same vein in consideration. So, with that being said, if you're a disabled person, again, the student loans would deemably be wiped from your, obviously, from your record. Again, there's no cap, there's no maximum. It's just based on your, again, disability amount that's received, and again, being 100% permanent and total, in which you would need to be at that point, that would be taken consideration to be removed.
Oh man, that's wonderful, man. That's wonderful because if you, especially if like you're a doctor, lawyer, or engineer, something along those lines, you have some graduate school going on, and you could have
Hmm.
some couple 100,000 in student
Easy.
loans. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a huge benefit.
But again, I mean, that's the thing. I want to always make sure that we're educating the veterans here, not only providing them a resource to provide the support, but we also want to go ahead and provide the information as well, because this is a benefit that most veterans do not know about. But again, if we can have the opportunity to provide you the information, we will. So with that, when we're talking about student loan forgiveness, there's also education benefits that go on top of that,
Mm.
to be able to be coupled to be able to get you through any type of trade school or college or even on the job training. But we can always dive a little bit more in depthly into that.
Definitely, man. They serving the veterans pretty well with that. And then the other one I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit more, you mentioned was the Chat VA, because now the spouses and dependents are getting some auxiliary benefits there as well. So, can you explain a little bit more about that program?
Yeah, so that one there, that's a more of a federal benefit. Because again, like mentioned, when you're permanent or total, you're considered permanently disabled, right? So by being permanently disabled, they're in reliance typically on the veteran to be able to take care of the household. So again, and financially, so we understand if the veteran is disabled, it's going to be very difficult for that veteran to deemably serve the household, right? So then they're considering their dependents to be reliant, which also authorizes medical insurance under Chant VA, which a separate application would need to be filed. It's going to take some time to go ahead and get that decision sent over to you. But at the end of the day, we want to get it done as soon as possible to walk through those steps, which ultimately we can be able to send you that information at any point that need be.
No, absolutely, man. That's huge, man, because medical insurance is going up, right? Like
Yeah.
literally you could be paying a couple $100 a month all the way up to 1,000 or more to support a whole family. So that
Yeah.
is a huge benefit, absolutely, that's helping our veterans. So we greatly appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But there's so many other benefits that, again, we're definitely going to speak about, so you guys can always make sure that that you're being provided the information. However, ultimately, if you want to learn more information about the ones that we just spoke about, please give us a call, send us an email, anything of that nature. We'll love to reach out to you to be able to set up some type of consultation so we can be able to assess your own personal situation.
Man, that's great. Kenneth, you said a lot there. Permanent and total is a hot topic, especially, right now with serving our veterans, and with people having a lot more financial need right now, and different things like that. So all of these things that through the federal benefits and the state programs are definitely great. So be mindful, definitely reach out to Veterans for Veterans for questions regarding this, because again, as he said, some of these are state specific, right? So when you're
Mhm.
talking about some of these auxiliary benefits, you might have a veteran friend that is in a different state. They give you some information, may not be valid for you, right? And it may be some additional things that you are unaware of because they didn't know about it because you guys live in different states. So listening to your comrades is pretty good, but you definitely want to talk to the experts and really be knowledgeable of those local details, because um, it's essential. It's essential for the survival of everything, and you being able to support yourself.
For sure, for sure. And ultimately, not only to support yourself, but also to support your family as well. When we're talking about dependents, I want to make sure I clarify to make sure that when we're talking about dependents, that means that any dependent that is under that veteran, right? Whether if it's a stepchild, whether if it's adopted child, whether if it's a biological child, that's deemably going to fall under that veteran, which again they'll be able to receive that medical insurance and allowable Champ BA benefit.
Huge, man. That's huge. That's huge. Now, one other question to that. So now when you say dependents, I know sometimes the veterans could claim their parent, right? They're caring for their parent. Would that
Mhm.
translate to their parent as well?
Yeah, that's actually going to translate to them as well, where they'll be again, it's a registered dependent, where they'll have that medical insurance benefit as well.
Oh man, that is very huge, man. That's very huge because I know quite a few veterans that are taking care of their parents, and sometime Medicare and different things like that is just not enough, and having some extra insurance options is always helpful, always
For
helpful
sure.
for that
Most
that
definitely. Most
that
definitely.
double and triple coverage. Absolutely, man. So Kenneth, great information for him, man. Any final words and thoughts you want to leave the people with today?
Man, to be honest with you, through this, through all these times, the world that we're living in today, ultimately, you want all the support that you can, and we're here to do so. Veterans, friends, and family, we're here to serve all. So, again, you guys could be able to tune in. We'll love to be able to make sure we take care of you.
Absolutely, man. We're loving the feedback we're getting from the community. Feel free to keep leaving your comments. Definitely is welcome, helpful. I know a lot of veterans are in the comments as well. Just even adding to the details in the conversation and explaining and going into really in depth about some of their personal stories and situations. So we greatly appreciate that. Continue with the comments. Keep showing love. Definitely subscribe. We're going to continue to grow this community out.
Hmm.
Have a good rest of your evening, folks. Prepare to compete. We out. Peace.
Peace.